Okay, we ready to go?
Go.
Ready.
All right, I got my agenda here. Basically going to go wood, where do we get it? What do we look for in the wood? And one of the big things that's going to be repeated over and over again is how we're going to deal with shrinkage and cracking. Because that's kind of the nemesis of turning bowl. The type of tools we have, we've got typically high-speed steel was the latest and greatest thing till about a few years ago when they came out with some carbide tip tools, which is now the latest and greatest. And I'm going to go through the way I do it, which is take green wood, fresh cut tree, turn it green, and I'm going to use the old high-speed tools just to demonstrate those. We'll talk about drying, then after it's dry, we'll finish turn it. I'll use the carbide tools for that. And then we can talk about what do we do, sanding, finishing, and that kind of thing. Okay? First thing is wood. I like to get it as it's being cut down. As soon as that saw is finished cutting through that wood, it's starting to crack. Slowly but surely. So the faster you can get the wood and do something with it, the better. I like to bring it home and start turning on it green immediately. Okay, if I can't do that, I'll take wood sealer and try to seal up the ends. I've been using this, it's basically a wax emulsion. Paint the ends of it, because you'll lose the moisture out the ends much quicker than you do through the body. This helps, it doesn't cure it. It may slow it down, but it's not a cure-all. I've been using this a while and got some mixed results. I've been reading, there's something called Anchor Seal, which supposedly does the same thing and is supposed to be better. Other people just paint them. Use a couple coats of latex paint on the ends. Anything to slow that evaporation through the ends of the wood.
Does that reduce cracking?
Yeah. It slows it down.
Like you said, it won't stop it.
Won't stop it. Second item, I like to get wood from the trunk of the tree, okay, where it's nice and straight. If you got a tree that's been leaning, then you're going to find that the pith, which is the little center spot in there, is way off center. And what that means is that part of that wood is, one side is under compression, the other side is under tension. You cut it, and now you not only have to deal with the standard shrinkage that you got, but now you've got all these other factors going in there that are going to warp it even more. So, if you want to avoid some frustration, stick to the things look for the pith in the center of the tree and the wood you're going to use. Okay? Now, a lot I'm going to talk about is dealing with shrinkage. Okay? And let's assume that we've got a piece of wood out of the tree, cut it up, and the first thing I'm going to do is put it in the bandsaw and turn it around. Okay? And so we're going to start there, and we're going to turn this thing green. And now there's different ways to drive this or attach it. One thing, where's the camera?
Right, just come this way a little bit. Right there.
There in the
Okay,
center. There you
this
go.
is the spur drive. For green wood, I tried this and I managed to chew up the wood pretty badly. So I've stayed away from that. They also have a screw drive where you just have a screw that you put into it. I do the same thing with green wood. So basically I'm using a faceplate. Take a faceplate and just screw it on. Now, if anybody's going to get into wood turning, I just dropped it. But I started out using the cheap aluminum faceplates. Don't worry about it. I don't need it. You don't need it? cheap aluminum face plates, and frankly, one of them busted on me. Another one I found was not quite perpendicular, so I stay away from them. Bought some, I don't know, I guess they're cast iron, and I've been using these things for years.
You just eyeballing your center?
No,
You already traced it on there?
well, when I turn this, I have to drill a hole in the center. I got a little peg that I use to turn on the bandsaw, so I got my center marked. I used to have big wood, cardboard circles, difference, and I had to always had the center punched out, so if I trace that on here, I'd mark the center. By the way, this demonstration today is going to be kind of like a cooking show. You know, I can't go from start to finish in an hour. There's a little bit of drying time in the middle, so I've got things prepared.
You got something waiting in the oven.
What's that?
You got something waiting in the oven.
Right.
You didn't say bam?
Hmm?
Before you gotta pull it out and say bam now.
Oh,
You
okay.
gotta expectations
Or tell us a story like Justin Wilson used to do.
Anyhow. And I invested in stainless steel screws so I can reuse them over and over again. And, another cone. I missed the center on my hole over here. Okay, we're going to mount it on the lathe. And the next thing is I'm going to support it with tailstock. Okay? If this thing's off center, it helps keep the thing in balance. It doesn't wobble on me too bad. The other thing is put a nice little dimple in the middle, right in the center. And later on, when we get this thing dry and want to come back, we'll know where the center is. So it serves two purposes. Now, we'll start out with a roughing gouge, which is a simple little chisel. It's good for taking a lot of wood off. It's not necessarily good for fine work. I mean, at this point, what we're looking to do is just get the wood off as fast as we can. Spin this to make sure it's not hitting my, and away we go. I got it on a fairly low speed. I think right now I'm on 500. All I want to do is try to make some kind of a bowl shape, and I have to put a tenon in the bottom for the next step, which is to grab it. Yeah,
So what's in the tailstock is going to be the bottom of the bowl.
right.
Okay.
thing about 45 degrees and just going right into the wood and I'm trying to anchor this end on my hip so I keep better control of it. Basically kind of just trying to define the shape of the finished bowl. You know, you can make them like this, you can make them round, there's infinite number of shapes you can do. Just now's the time that you're pretty much setting what this finished bowl is going to look like. Turn it, put a tenon on the bottom, and I'm going to get out a bowl gouge. Makes it a little easier. You can see this is a lot narrower, and it's swept back, I guess is what to call it, and it's much better for finer work. And I want to try to make it flat at the bottom first. I've got a scraper here. This is a square end scraper. And what I want to do, I want this tenon to have a nice solid bottom on it, so when I put my chuck on it, it'll sit nice and I need to make it about 3/8 of an inch deep. Okay. And let me just smooth this thing out a little bit. This doesn't have to look real pretty because it's going to shrink, it's going to do all sorts of stuff before we're done, so we're just trying to define the shape.
Lee, what do you mean the bottom's going to be about 3/8 inch deep? Is it going to be recessed or something like that?
Yeah,
That's the tenon that sticks out.
You want the shoulder to stick out about 3/8 of an inch.
I need to turn a tenon on it like
Oh,
this.
I see, okay, okay.
Turn it around, put it in the chuck,
base,
get the
okay.
hole out.
Because the next step is going to be put it in a chuck like this and grab it by the tenon.
Okay.
Okay, that's why I'm turning the
Yeah.
tenon. I do that so I
gotta have
can turn
something to
this
hold
around
to.
and dig out the inside of it.
Okay.
Okay. By the way, this handy little, very nice chuck. And it comes with different inserts, so you can have different diameters that you can grab with it.
Cool. Okay.
What are you turning now, Lee?
This look like hackberries, but it didn't have all the warts on it, like a hackberry tree does. But it's nice, soft, easy turning. I want to make it easy on myself today. I didn't want something real difficult. And, so let me just try to finish up smoothing this out. I'm going to move this over. I like to get the tool rest fairly close to the work so that I get better leverage on it.
Whether you leave a half inch, I can't see
Yeah, anywhere from a 1/4 inch to 3/4 of an inch.
As long as it's clear. The closer it is, the less it beats on you.
Okay, now, most everyone you read says when you turn on the outside of the bowl, you go from the bottom to the rim. When you turn the inside of the bowl, you go from the rim to the bottom. I frankly don't find much difference, but that's what they'll all tell you. Okay, so
I can't see where it would really make a difference, would it? I mean,
well, supposedly the way you're getting into the end grain, which is where you get into problems more so.
One's a push cut, and one's a pull cut. Don't know what you'd like to do better
Yeah,
and can handle better.
yeah. All right. Here somewhere. Shoot. Because this is new to me and it came with a different size fitting than the old one, I put an adapter in here so I can still use my old tools. However, sometimes the adapter turns instead of letting the
There's your maul, you need a maul too.
you use that word.
That's the
Big
handy,
hammer.
your small adapter.
That's all we have.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
What's your test?
Do it to the assistant apprentice.
There it is. Gonna mount this in our chuck.
Face plate's off, now you're on the tenon on the other end that you made, right?
Right. So now, looking to hollow out the center.
You gotta get down on that chuck pretty good, don't you?
Huh?
So you got to
Oh,
get
yeah.
down on it pretty good.
Yeah.
You really don't want it coming off, hit you upside the head.
That wouldn't be good.
Okay. Now for this, I'm going to use bowl gouge. That roughing gouge does not do well trying to hollow out the inside of the bowl.
That carbide tip,
No, no, this is just high-speed
How's
steel.
that tip look? Can you show it to the camera?
at the front of the bowl.
There you go, right there. That's okay.
They don't make carbide gouges, do they?
No, well,
It's all a scraping mechanism.
Right.
Carbide.
Is that why you're using high-speed steel now? Because They don't make a
No,
something
the
that would
carbide, I
work?
can do it with carbide.
You can?
I'm just trying to demonstrate that there's two different sets of tools and you actually use them differently. Okay?
The gouge is cut and the carbide cut also, but they're basically scrapers.
Right.
Okay.
For instance, now when I'm going to start working on this, I'm going to start with my tool pointed again 45 degrees and slowly coming into the middle. If I had a carbide tool, I'd just come in perfectly level and just go to the middle. There's a different technique in using one versus the other.
Lee, let me ask you, can that tool rest move out of your way on there? I'm just asking.
Move out of my way?
I'm sorry, the tailstock, yeah, thank you.
Well, yeah, I'd have to take it off, and
Oh,
then,
okay.
we fought it this morning, so.
It don't come off. It comes off easy, but it don't go back on easy.
This is actually the most fun part of bolt turning because you really think you're doing something because you make shavings. Now, I'm going to try to get this thing to be, I got to leave it thick because it's going to warp, okay? If I cut it, let's say to a 1/4 inch, I'm going to wind up with a very strange looking bowl. When I go to finish turning it, it won't work. So right now this thing is about 6 inches across, and the common thing is you leave about 10% wall thickness. So I need to leave about 2/3 of an inch wall thickness. And then when it dries, I should still have enough wood to turn it round. And let me show you something. Here's one. It was turned, and it's almost perfectly round. You know, this did fine.
It dries well.
It dried well. Here's another one. Okay.
That started off round,
That was round. That was round.
but you turned it like that.
You're good.
You get more money for that one.
Okay. And a lot of it depends on the kind of wood you have. And this is something I'll never even try again. This is oak.
Yeah.
Oak is the devil. It cracks easy. It warps like
That'd be like trying to turn Purple Heart.
Does that hold true for all hardwoods?
No.
no. Oh
Does
no.
not.
No. Okay.
For instance, hickory turns really well.
Lee,
This happens to be a mimosa tree. It's nice and soft and easy, which is why I got it out today.
Lee,
Yeah.
when the one that's spinning right now,
Yeah.
you would take a little bit more out and get
Oh,
it
yeah,
down.
I'm
get it
finished
down.
with
When you get to the rough shape like you are right there, how long would that take basically to dry before you come back and finish it?
Well, the common thing is says a year per inch of thickness. Is you're just going to let the air dry?
And that's the original thickness it was?
No,
or
the thickness is,
what's
let's
left?
say I cut this to 2/3 of an
okay.
inch, so I would say, what, eight
Eight
months?
months.
6, 8 months, 9 months?
Okay, now, I got
So if you want to turn bowls, you got to make a whole bunch of them up regularly, so you'll have some as they dry.
Yeah, I was just
I got
curious.
this little cheapo moisture meter, and you come along every now and then, and measure the moisture, record it, come back in another month, and once it levels out, you're good to finish.
Should be around, what, 9% around here?
No, about 11 to 14 is what I
12
know.
is pretty common, yeah, for my bowwood here.
Huh?
12 is pretty common for my bowwood.
Yeah. You get down to 12, you're good. Now, you know, kiln dried wood, they get down, I don't know, what, 5-6%, something like that. But,
Would kiln be better to turn, or you'd have to glue it together or something?
well,
Finding a piece big enough and kiln dried. If you go buy a piece of lumber big enough to make a bowl with, you can't afford to do it.
That's why I was just curious. I mean,
Yeah.
could you buy some?
Let's just say you go down and you want to make a 12-inch bowl. But in the first place, you ain't gonna find any stock thick enough probably to turn a 12-inch bowl. If you did, you're looking at $40-50 for a bowl blunt.
yeah.
So not the only thing you can do is make your own. Now, I talked to a guy in North Carolina the other day. I was at a craft show, and this guy had some gorgeous bows. And I got to talking to him, and he turns his just like this to the stage. And he told me, he says, I take that bowl now, as soon as I get through rough turning, and I soak it in denatured alcohol for 24 hours. And he said, that cuts my drying time from 6 months to 6 weeks.
Because the evaporation of the alcohol pulls the moisture out.
I guess.
Well, you have osmosis, the alcohol goes in, the moisture comes out, and then, yeah, and then the alcohol dries very fast. Back out.
That's what he does. Now, if you are turning, and you want to turn a bowl with a very thin wall on it, you can turn green wood to dry on the lathe. If you get down to 3/16, 1/8 of an inch bowl wall, it'll dry as you turn it. Now, you also can crack, but you can dry it right there because you've gotten so thick, and then the heat from your rag and your polish and stuff, it's dry when you're done.
One caveat to that, I know a guy that turned lampshades,
Yeah.
very thin, and he said, you basically have to turn, you can't work the whole bowl, you know, thinning it out the whole way. You've got to start at the rim, make that thin, and then work your way in, because it gets so thin it starts to move on you. You know, it won't stay exactly round in the lathe anymore. So I've never tried it, so.
Seems like it would, one little slip and then you gotta start all over. You
Yeah.
bust that thing in pieces.
You ever seen the guy that turns cowboy hats?
I've been.
He'll turn a hat on the lathe out of wet wood. When he gets through, he'll actually take the rim. It's still pliable.
Yeah.
He'll form it to the shape he wants and form it to the shape of the head he wants
Yeah.
and set it aside and it's done.
That's,
But
that's,
you
that's,
can also learn several hours worth of work. Real quick.
yeah.
I bet he had a lot of practice.
Yeah.
Wasted a lot of wood.
Okay, guys, I want to try to finish up Hollywood now. I'm starting up here about 10:30, trying to bring it on in till I get to dead center here. The other thing that is common teaching is you ride the bevel. In other words, the bevel around here, you try to ride that on the wood and basically just be slicing off wood as you go. That's the common knowledge, and I try to do it, and sometimes I get to do it.
If it don't work out, you get what's called a dig or a hit.
Yeah.
Then it leaves you a nice hole.
The way I approach it is I'll put it in kind of the back of it, and I'll slowly turn it until I start getting shavings, and then I'm ready to go.
It sounds like you're gonna get more consistent results if you're willing to cut the bowl a little thicker at this point and let it dry a little longer. You're gonna get more consistent results if you do that.
I don't know. I've had some wood that, I'm basically trying to stay away from green wood. I want to finish my bowl. I don't want to have to come back later and do all that. So I dry the wood and then turn them.
Yeah.
Now, when you do that, you're subject to lose a lot of wood because it can dry, it can crack.
Yeah.
And even after if you think it's dry, I've got a holly bowl that I turn the bottom line. If you continue to change after I turn it, they can still do that.
Now, you know, when you measure thickness, they'll sell you little gauges to do measure thickness and all that, and I find that put your fingers down the side is better than any thickness gauge.
Don't get splinters that way?
You gotta calibrate your fingers before though, don't you?
No, as long as you can measure what's on the end and you just feel down if it's the same,
You can tell right quick if it's thicker in spots or not.
yeah. It's,
How would you feel the bottom? I mean, it's,
how would I what?
how do you feel, how do you know you're not going too deep?
Well, again, they'll sell you all kinds of good stuff, and I go like this, I look
Yep.
at it, put my thumb on it,
Okay, just eyeball.
eyeball it, yeah.
You
Now-
didn't get the chuck, you went too far.
Experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the cardinal rule of wood burning. The inside has to be smaller than the outside.
Lee,
Yeah,
I got one on the shelf that I went right through the bottom of, got a hole in it, just about that big, and I just keep it as a reminder.
down there by your left foot there, you dropped a drill bit or something. I don't want you to
okay.
kick it under the table or something.
Lee, did you have a plan for this bowl before you started, or you just sort of winging it?
I'm winging it.
Sometimes, they got people that show you how to do it with a mirror and they make all this design. Let the wood dictate what it's gonna look like. Because you might have this in mind and you get in there and that piece splits off. You know?
A lot of times I'll start out with trying to make a bowl of a certain size and things happen, like catches. And all of a sudden you wind up with something that's a little different than what you had in mind. You still made a bowl. Now, I've got my thickness about right on the walls, and just flattening out the rim. The last thing I'm going to do is I've got some sharp edges here where the rim is, and I'm going to just take those sharp edges off. It's a good place for a crack to start. So, again, I do a lot of things so I don't crack the bowl.
Lee, do you like turning with a tenon better than you do a recess?
I've never tried a recess, and I guess my theory is I can squeeze it as hard as I want. I won't break it, but if I
Yeah.
do a tenon and I'm pushing out,
Yep.
bad things might happen. So,
Chances are if you do it, it will happen.
yeah. Let's see here.
Did we all understand what y'all are talking about, the tenon and the recess, I mean, that the jaws?
Okay.
Outside and out.
The jaws are serrated on the inside, and they also got little ridges on the outside. So, in theory, I could have made an internal one, put this in, and expanded
Expanded it out.
it out to grab the bowl. A lot of people do it that way. I've just never chose to do it that
I
way.
think it would put more pressure on that wood as you spin and
Yeah.
wouldn't it make it more susceptible to cracking or something?
I don't know.
I turn,
That's
I mean,
my,
it just
I do almost all
looks
my
that way.
turning.
I don't know if I'm right or wrong,
I
but
do
it
all
looks
my
that
turning
way.
recess, but I don't turn green wood,
yeah.
okay? Which means my wood is a whole lot harder than what he's dealing with. And I've not had any problem. Make your recess, slightly dovetail it, put it on there, turn your bow. And I'll leave my recess, I don't cut it off. And the reason I do is if I make a bow and 6 months from now, I look at that thing and it ain't exactly like I think it ought to be, I can go put it back on the lathe and re-true it. You cut that tenon off, you're done.
Okay. Now, the next step is we want to get it dry.
Now, do you put that in a bag with shavings or you just put it on the shelf just like that?
Well,
Can you pass it around so we can see what you've done so far?
yeah.
Question, you had a question, I saw somebody.
Oh, shit.
Oh, come on, Art.
I think Harold had a question.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Lee, the jaws of that chuck are smooth, right?
No.
No.
They have little ridges, I was
Yeah,
wondering.
they're serrated.
So, okay, so with that does leave marks on your tenon then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Eventually, those got to get turned off.
Okay.
There.
It's not gonna toss it.
Okay, okay.
Inside or out, either way.
Yeah.
You know, if they were smooth, I'm not sure they'd hold real well.
Well,
I'm afraid to come off.
you explained it because you cut that part off.
Okay, now what I'm going to do with that, to dry it, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wax emulsion again, and I'm going to paint the ends. Where did it go?
Right there.
I got more. Need it?
You're gonna paint,
I got somewhere. So now I'm going to go paint mainly the end grain ends. My grain's running through this way, so I'm going to put the wax emulsion inside and out on those. Then I'm going to stick it in the bag. I'm going to take some shavings, throw them in there, and for good measure,
The squirt bottle's
oh,
on
here's
here.
my squirt bottle. You know, because I've actually heated up that wood, so I don't want it to start drying, so I'm going to squirt some water in there. The shavings are going to be very dry, okay? Just because they're, like Jackie said, when you turn the thing real thin, it almost dries, so I want to wet them. I want this thing to dry slow. I don't want it to...
if he set it on the shelf, just like it is right now, better than good chance it's gonna crack.
So I'll do that. I'll take my bag. Now usually I'll have, you know, I'll be doing a bunch of these. I'll fill the bag up, seal it up, duct tape it. I'll put the date and what kind of wood I got in it. And usually I'll write on the bottom of the bowl the date and the wood. This was hackberry, June of 16. And that goes up on the shelf. And now if you'll just pretend that here we are a year later.
Lee, at this point now, if you were to take a hose clamp, with a worm drive hose clamp,
Yeah.
and put the clamp on that outside edge, it's a little bit less chance of it cracking
Put it around the bowl.
down the bowl.
Well, that's interesting.
That would dry that.
I'll give that a shot.
Coy does that.
Coy does that. Okay.
I told you good.
Where's my other example?
In the bag?
Down below on the left.
Well, now of course, let's just say this is a year later. We pull this thing out of the bag. We've been testing it. It's leveled out. So what do we do?
Tell people you did that on purpose.
That's a special need,
The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try, what I really want to do is get that tenon on the bottom back to round, because it is now oblong along with the rest of the bowl. What I want to do is be able to jam that thing on here. I'm going to use that dimple that we had from the original bowl, jam it up against here, and use just the friction of this to drive the bowl enough so that I can now re-round my tenon.
Do you have sandpaper or anything on that?
I've got rubber,
Oh, okay. I couldn't
sheet
see
rubber.
that. All right.
I've also got one in the shop that has sandpaper on it.
Okay. I couldn't see the other side. I just.
Which
Yeah.
one works best?
This works fine. And I've been using this and it's done me fine, so.
Now that warp bowl, could you true that bowl back up?
No. This thing is,
Too bad.
basically, I have to take this dimension and make it this dimension.
Yep.
And then I have to take this dimension and make it that dimension. in order to make it wind up with a round piece. And when you do that, you wind up with about an 1/8 inch if you're a perfect turner. And this is going this way.
But then it wouldn't look cool no more.
Huh?
Then it wouldn't look cool no more if you did all that. Looks cool. Is your tenon round enough you can get it back in your truck? Or is
No.
it-
That makes sense, that's pretty talented.
So basically, that's fancy firewood.
That's firewood there. And where's my bowl go?
Here, on this end down here, Lee.
No, that's not the one I want.
Hey, good luck.
Lee on this end,
Right here.
other end.
Okay, here's one. Now what I have to do when that thing's wobbly like that, I have to shave it off so that I make a flat surface so it'll stay on there. Now, we have options. You can use the plane or power plane. You know which one I'm going to use. Okay, so anyhow, let's just, I won't bore you with planing this. This has been planed. I'm going to put this, line that up. And away we go. Now this time I'm going to use the carbide tool.
Now you drew it, you tell them now, right?
Right. And
That means this bowl is dry.
this is dry, yeah.
This is 6 months later.
Right. And carbide tools come, you get them either with a little round edge on it or a square edge. And,
If you remember a few meetings back, Jim Landry made one.
right. Jim basically you can buy replacements for these. You know, you use them, you turn them when they get dull. Eventually you throw them out and put another one on. And so that's what I'm going to just
You bought one of those tools new, $100?
No.
140 about. They're about 140 some dollars. But to me, the point is, you don't have to have a sharpening system. You don't have to have a multitude of tools. You know, this will do, at least for bolt turning, this will do pretty much everything you want it to do.
How much is a tip new replacement?
I don't know, they're like
$20.
$20. Something like.
Well, what about 20?
Yeah.
You can buy them about $10 or some piece.
Okay.
If you buy them, that guy in New Orleans sells them.
Yeah.
They're about $10.
But you buy them through a catalog, they're about 15.
Yeah, easy wood, they're more expensive, right?
Yeah.
But you can turn a whole lot of bolts before you gotta buy another.
Right.
Carbide lasts a long time.
You know, if I was starting over today, this is what I'd be using.
Also rotating.
Huh?
You also
Yeah,
rotate.
yeah,
Right,
4 cutting
rotating.
surfaces.
So like the square, when you got 4 different edges,
Were they attached with a screw?
Yeah, little
A
Allen.
little bit out.
I'll screw in there.
I'm
Good
on
to
the
go.
Cap and Don set so I can make some. I just ain't never had time to get to it.
Goosenecks with it inside.
Yeah.
I want to try it.
They make those in various, besides those, they also make some specialty ones, like with a gooseneck on, will reach it inside and hollowing vessels out, and that kind of stuff.
Make vases and things like that.
Now, with carbide tip tools, you basically want the thing going in level, and you want the cutting to be right on the center line of the bolt. There's that one. So I want to try to true up my That's it. Okay, so now I have a round tenon again. I can come back and grab it with my chuck.
When it's dry like that, Lee,
Yeah.
would you have to put like a little less pressure on it because it might be more suitable to cracking, or?
Yeah. Well, it's more subject to digging in and that kind of stuff. I'm pretty good about getting dig ins.
You getting good at them?
I'm getting good at them, man. I can dig into anything.
Talking about riding the bevel, there's a fine line between riding it and screwing up.
Yeah.
Because if you get just a hair too far, it catches. And when it catches, it leaves the gouge. I'm talking about that oak. One of the worst woods I ever turned. Turned out beautiful. It was like turning concrete, and that was live oak. Live oak does not have a straight grain. It's all interlocking and squirrely looking. And it turns like plastic, it's so hard. It's really, really hard. You just about got to turn it with scrapers. You try a gouge, it's just almost impossible. Carbide scrapers. And it's beautiful wood if you ever get it turned. But it is some kind of hard.
John Becknell says there are some metal tools he's afraid to hit with a live oak mallet because they might break the metal tool.
Live oak is it's a whole different breed of cat. It ain't nothing like any oak you've ever turned.
Okay. I want to use the round. Of course, on the inside, I need the round one to do that. And I'm going to go pretty slow because I don't want to dig in.
You're digging in, Lee.
What speed is that, Lee, now?
You're going to start from the ring.
I'm still on 500.
100? Okay.
You know, I can jack it up to.
Are you going to go center to out or outside to inside? Or does it
It
matter?
doesn't matter on carbide tip too. You go whatever way you want to
Just
go.
whatever fits your bill, huh?
Be a feel thing, I guess. Whatever feels better for you, huh?
So where you at now, Lee? What's
I'm
the
at
speed?
765, but you know I could go a lot faster.
All right.
Now what I want to do is I want to go in very slowly, and just shave it off. I could be using the high-speed tools and doing the same thing.
If you listen to the sound, you can tell that the bow is no longer round. It's hitting high spots. In a minute, the sound will change.
Now I got to tell you, the method I'm going through is something that I do. There's a lot of other ways to turn a bowl. Okay, so don't think that I'm the super expert. This is the only way you can do it.
Actually, I don't think that bull got that bad all around, considering.
It did. This was probably one of the best ones I've ever had. Normally they're somewhere between this and the really bad.
And the one that looks like a football?
Yeah.
If you just start now and turning,
Somebody's a football, you know, or somebody's ballet.
if you just start now turning, scrapers are a lot easier to learn to use than gouges are. Just about anybody can pick one of these up and figure out pretty quick how to make it work. The gouge is another matter. And you get an excellent result. If I got a wood that's really tough, just like that live oak wood, I've got some scrapers that are that thick. So you get almost no shadow with them. I'll grab one of those and get in there. Get the gouge out. Notice the shavings is coming off now. Real fine.
I noticed too, he's changing, your right hand is slightly moving up and down to the feel of the wood, I'm guessing.
Well, it's not supposed to be.
Oh, okay, I'm saying, as you get in the middle, I noticed. Whoa, don't do that.
That's called a catch, fellas.
Yeah.
Oh, now you gotta take another quarter inch out, Michelle.
Well, I don't know where I got it. But the wood will tell me.
Yeah, it'll tell you.
What he's doing is The reason he's having to manipulate him up and down, if he gets the center, you gotta change the angle just a little bit, otherwise it'll start jerking around.
That's what I'm seeing.
I'll point out something about the catch you just had here. That's a scraper, so when it caught, it tended to push it away. If that had been a gouge, it wouldn't have been the same story.
It would have had to definitely go, it would have really messed it up. Is that what you're saying?
What he does is it turns it into the wood.
Now, you guys that want to really learn how to turn wood and all that, take Terry's class. You can hear Cameron a lot less than we did when we started. Getting this thing more in the round. Actually, the hardest part is dealing right in the dead center where
Dead center.
you got these little nibs that you try to get rid of, and
Some of the guys will tell you when you get finished, you put a marble just on it. Put a marble in your bowl, and if the marble don't go to the center of the bowl and bottom, you left too much on it. Of course, if you want to leave a little ridge in it, show them that's not design. That's the cool thing about bowl turning. It's your bowl. You make it look like a bowl turner.
They got people that's making them ones now that got a lean on the inside, so you can get all your gravy and your rice as you eat it. Falls in, it's got a little small pocket. I don't know if y'all ever saw those. My wife saw them at the bottom last year for a Christmas gift for my brother. But the inside of the bowl actually leans to one end and it's got a little
Get that
pull where you get that last spoon. Yeah. It'll all go down.
I never just looked at it.
At this point, at least, you could make it any kind of creation you want, like
yeah.
put a little lip on the inside or the outside if you really
You
wanted
can do anything
to.
you want with it. You know, you can put beads on the outside, you can put little coats, you can flare it out on the, that's what's nice about this thing is you can do anything you
But you
want.
gotta wait that however long for it to dry. If you did that while it was still green, there'd just be more places for it to probably warp and crack, huh?
Well, no, I mean, you basically kind of got to get the basic shape of the bowl while it's green,
Okay.
you know. And once you get it to this point, you don't have that much flexibility. You have some, but you don't have that much flexibility in what the finished bowl is going to look like. How am I doing on time, Jackie?
You're doing fine. You got another 20 minutes?
Oh.
5 minutes?
Oh, wow. Okay.
We wanna know what you're gonna do with that bottom end.
The bottom end?
You're gonna cut that
Wait
off
on.
eventually?
Just wait.
Anticipation, fellas, anticipation.
I know, standing here watching you redo this over and over again is kind of like watching paint dry, but,
You ever sell a bowl for more than you put into it?
huh?
You ever get your money back selling a bowl?
I've never
No.
sold one.
I can tell you right now, I have. And most of the time, in this area, bowls don't sell well. People think it don't look at just a wooden bowl, set it back down. You take the same bowl to North Carolina, pick it up, oh, that's a piece of art, I'll give you $100 for it. Down here, you let it, you get 30. And so what happens is you make all these bowls, because you like them and you look good, and you take them in the house, and you give them to your wife, and eventually she says, don't bring me another bowl.
There's some truth to that, because we went to South Carolina and they sell them bead, not beads, but it's some kind of straw, kind of like
Yeah.
they do with the Indians in Marksville, but over there in South Carolina, it was big.
It's called sweet grass, they call it.
They had hats, they had bowls, they had all kinds of stuff. weaved all of that in and would sell it. So I mean, it was, you go to them flea market type things, oh, that's all you saw.
There's a lot of last year.
What I saw in the last one time was a guy, they got long winters up there. He's got one shed set up, so it's got 6 months a year, during the rough time. Then when winter comes, he goes into his little shed, leaves down bowls, and out of in there, we have bowls all over the place. Everything from almost flower pot size to little bit.
Right now, I've pretty well got the shape. I'm just trying to make sure that I got a nice smooth transition in here. I don't have any wavy spots, and yeah, so that's all we're trying to do now. And then we're going to turn it around.
When you pick the bowl up and look at it on the inside, you don't want to see any tool marks. You don't want to see any ripples. You don't want to see any ridges. They want to be smooth transition, like you said. They want to be slick. And most of the time when people buy bowls, it's ladies buy them. And the first thing they do is pick it up and feel it. And if it's smooth, they impress. If it ain't, they set it right back down.
So you're still gonna put some sandpaper or something on there?
Oh, yeah.
like that, and,
Oh, yeah.
So that'll help smooth it, huh?
Yeah.
But the better you do with that tool, the less you do with the sander.
Yeah.
And that's what you don't want to have to do a
You
lot
kinda-
of.
You're not really sanding with the grain on this, really, so wouldn't it kind of scratch a little bit? Or
Yeah.
you
Now,
gotta buff it down? huh?
if I was in high speed, basically the carbide's like a scraper, so I pretty much scrape the inside. If I had using the high speed tools, I'd take a scraper like this and I'd basically try to smooth out the tool marks as best I could. You're always going to need the sand. But it depends on whether you start with 60 grit or 150 grit.
Bear in mind that every time that bowl goes around, you're cutting 2 end grains and 2 long grains.
Right, that's what I'm saying, you're not really going with grain, so.
The long grains easy to cut. The end grains, they short tools, or you get it fuzzed, and you spend half your day sanding all the fuzz out. Sorry,
That's
I'm
me.
done.
That's me. No, that's, okay, I'm gonna, alright. Oops, no, I gotta move my tool rest around. I'm gonna do some of the outside. I obviously can't do it all, but I'm gonna do as much as I can with that flat carbide scraper.
Yeah, you haven't trued the outside up yet. It can still have a little warp in it, couldn't it?
Oh, yeah. No, not just could, it will. So now we got the one with the flat tip. We're going to screw it up and also, oops,
Pretty good idea to turn that, adjust that thing with that thing running.
Just don't get your finger.
probably not,
in the
but
tool.
Okay.
Probably very not. If I was a true safety man, I'd be clucking.
I usually will try to turn the inside to where I like it. Then I'll do the outside, and if it's too thick, I'll take it off the outside. I have a lot more trouble making a nice smooth inside than I do with the outside, so that's just me. And you can hear all that chatter from being out around.
Do you always turn with speed that slow?
No. No, I'm at 760. I could easily get up over 1,000.
I usually do my roughing in 6, 7, 8, 900. And my
Yeah.
finish, I'll run it on up 14, 1600.
Yeah, we're about 1,100 RPM now.
The faster it is, it's easier for you to, if you hit the high spot, instead of doing this on you.
this is the, I won't do it today, but this is the point where I want to put a dust mask on, because I'm making little fine dust, and I'll start gagging after a while.
What happens if you hit a knot?
You don't want to knot.
Well,
If you're too sharp, it'll cut the knot.
cut the knot, and actually sometimes
Needs an interesting design.
it's nice to have, you know, a perfectly smooth bowl can be uninteresting. You know, if you have some flaws in it, it actually kind of makes it a more interesting bowl.
I turned the cypress platter about that big, and it had one knot in it, and it's not in the center. It's off center. Showed it to Curtis and Chris, why didn't you put the knot in the middle? It didn't work out that way.
I'll move it later.
Paint one in there, fine.
Yeah, we just. I'm going to try to take a little off. And with a carbide tool, I found it's easy for me. It's easier to kind of come in at it sideways. You can take a little more off at a time.
So basically you cut with the corner.
I'll cut with the corner. And that way, instead of just taking a little bitty thin piece off, I can take a bigger, thicker, more wood off at the same time. Somewhere there's kind of a nice wall thickness that the bowl looks right, you know. If it's too thick, it looks clunky.
What would you say, you got a half inch, about a half inch now?
Probably got,
5/8?
yeah, a good half inch, and ideally I like to get them about 3/8, even to a quarter sometimes. But I don't like getting too thin, because if you have a last minute catch, then
Now
I
you
don't have a
don't.
bowl anymore. I like to leave it where if I screw up, I always got an option to make a little thinner and rescue a bowl. Take one more pass at this. I'll probably do more, take it down further, but I think it's just going to waste time.
Don't you ever get splinters doing that?
Nope.
The only thing you get on that, if you turn it, this is a round hole. If you take a tree and cut the side out of the tree, okay, and you make your bowl blank, don't make one side flat, leave it outside the tree as it is. You now can turn what's called a natural edge bowl. And you'll have 2 high spots and 2 low spots, okay? When you're turning, you have to turn it in air. That's why I speed it up, okay? But when you start to sand that bowl, if you get your finger in the wrong place, the high spot will beat the crap out of it before you can move it. Okay? Other than that, you ain't gonna hurt yourself. But sandpaper does get hot. Which also aids in drying.
this is maybe a little thicker than I'd like. I'd probably take it down maybe another 1/16 of an inch or so, but in interest of not boring you to silly watching you do that.
Look at the difference in the shavings from where he started to what he's getting now.
Yeah, got a little fine.
You see the dust coming off of it? That's what he's talking about with the dust mask.
Yeah, it's,
And then when you begin to sand, it's even worse.
yeah, sanding. Okay, now I've got, let's just assume that most of the bolt turned, but I've still got this bottom that I couldn't get to. I got to deal with that. What do you think I ought to do?
Longworth.
Huh?
Longworth.
Longworth. All right, that's an option.
Bandsaw.
Jam chuck.
Jam chuck. So I'm going to go put my old buddy here with the rubber face on. And we're going to get the rest of it here. That's why you're always supposed to
Damn
rotate
it.
a couple times before you turn it on.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't do things like that. I'm glad I was here to show you how not to do it.
Yeah.
That was included in your presentation, huh?
Right, right. That was part of it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess let me stop a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself here. While I still had the inside of the bowl showing, turning that, then I would sand it while I had it on the chuck there.
That's what I was thinking.
So I got ahead of myself here. Now, you know, there's all kinds of different ways to sand these things. You can just use a piece of paper, stick your hand in there, and you better have a glove on because it's going to get hot in a hurry. I've found that there's a system using your drill that comes up with these little gizmos here, sandpaper, different grits, and it's nice that they lock in. And then you can sand with them on the inside, because so you can sand the inside of your bowl with these. Okay?
We just hold it by hand, huh, Lee? Just hold it with your hand, hold that.
Yeah,
You
hold that
actually,
with your hand.
all it does is twist on.
actually on your drill. What you're creating is basically the same thing as like a random orbit sander, which will get rid of
Oh, you use it
lines
on the
that-
drill, okay, that's what I was wondering about.
Yeah. So you just put it in there and you're
Okay.
sand to your heart's content. And it comes, you know, you go through your grits just like you would any other thing. And then when we get done with the outside, we'll do the same thing. And they've got, just to show you, they got a little different one. The outside are flat, of course. They don't need the bend to get on the inside curve, so they're just perfectly flat. You can work your outside. Okay, meantime. Trying to get this outside to, finish what I started, make it a nice smooth curve. What I want to do is I usually like to leave a little tenon on the bottom of the bowl, something flat for it to sit on. But, and I'm going back to a little smaller bowl, guys, and I want to turn off part of this original tenon that I had. Turn a little bit concave, okay, so when I wind up my bowl, it'll just be sitting on the rim. I'm going to square up that tenon so, the marks from the jaws grabbing it, I'll get rid of those. Okay, at this point, then, assuming I had this all smooth where I wanted it, then I would go to sanding the outside here. And I already would have sanded, when I had it on the chuck, I would have sanded the part of the outside I'd already done. So that I'd be sanding this and now this needs more work. I want you to get the idea of that. We go through our grits, sanding it down, and then we have a finished bowl. And here's one that I've completely sanded. If you want to pass it around and look at it.
Lee, what finish do you like on your bowls?
Well, I've mainly used oil finishes. I've tried antique oil, salad bowl oil. There's all kinds of oil. To me, I can't tell the difference. They all come out about the same. This one's got one of those finishes on it, and not super happy with it. It's not real shiny, but that's that light colored bowl with some oil on it.
Do you do that with it on the lathe, or you wait till after?
I do that after.
Do you?
You don't put
Yeah.
the finish on the lathe?
No.
There's a company called Hut, and they make a wax. It comes in a stick, it's about an inch square, and you put it, rub it on, coat both sides, and take a rag and hold it until you remove all the excess wax.
Yeah.
And it burnishes it into it and waxes the bowl. Then I'll take a handful of those smooth shavings right there, and I'll burnish it, just shove it into the bowl and use it like sandpaper to burnish the wax. And that's how I finish mine. And it leaves them very, very slick. And like I said, I like leaving the little recess on there because I can go back and re-wax them if I want to.
Hey Lee, on that last piece you did with the tailstock went in there, the rise there. How do you
Okay.
that part out?
Glad you asked.
chisel.
Basically, I take a hammer and a chisel,
It's in
and knock that
that,
little.
it's in that foam rubber leaf.
Oh, okay. I'll do that. I like to have something that'll help keep it. You know, I use this old carpet pad that I find on the street anytime. Just
All
take
right.
the nub off. I'll get my sanding, the sander that I use for the inside of the bowls.
Yeah.
Just sand it out. And then, the last thing I do I have it? I guess I got a little vibrating etcher. I always like to know what kind of wood it is, so I'll just etch it in the bottom before I turn it, before I finish it. And
Most turners will put their either their name or their initials or some logo on it. They'll put the date it was turned and the kind of wood, because people want to know that.
I just like to know what kind of wood it is, because, you know, go back 3 years later, oh, that's a nice looking board. What kind of wood was that?
Yeah.
You want to know.
Do you stick to the food safe finishes, or do you not care?
Well,
Or
they have what's called salad bowl oil, which says it's food safe after all the solvents dry off. And frankly, I think all the other ones are the same way.
the same?
It's all the same stuff. They've just gone through a procedure of getting it certified or something. But I don't really think that there's anything different about it. One to the other.
Question is, you're gonna eat out of it or not?
Well,
Yeah.
what you do is when you're selling them, you tell people these are not to eat out of, these are art. These are to look at.
Well,
If you want a salad bowl, go down to Walmart and buy you one. I don't make salad bowls.
okay. Anyhow, Paul. I've asked Paul, you know, you've seen the the things I go through to turn a bowl, but I know there's other ways. Paul, what would you do different in the methods of turning a bowl?
That's the only thing, like Jack said, I use the mortise instead of the tendon on the inside of
Okay.
the bowl. It's easier to finish it and redo.
Okay,
But basically, you covered everything that
okay.
I can't,
Do you do anything any simpler than I do?
no.
Okay, you
No,
got something like
I've never used that friction board you use, and I've never used that. I just use the tendon, the mortise in the bottom to do the bottom, and,
Uh-huh,
but that's,
okay,
I learned something on that.
okay. Terry, what do you do different?
I'm really not a bowl turner.
Okay.
Doing table legs and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I might adjust my tools because it's not spinning.
Yes, indeed. He's another one gonna be on the safety committee.
All right,
Crap out of me.
that sounds good, okay? Till you're standing behind the lathe and I ain't stopping this stupid thing, and you don't do that. You take shortcuts.
No, you're
The
right.
only thing you gotta be really careful of is to move the stupid tool rest when you start sanding. Because if you get your finger between that bowl and that tool rest, it don't feel good.
And don't wear loose clothes, and don't wear things that's gonna get caught up in there while it's spinning and things like that.
Is that experience? Is that experience?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I-
I've burned a couple of fingers like that.
I don't know what y'all do, but I found at Home Depot some real white jumpsuits.
Yeah.
You can, I mean, I think they were like $4. And
Well,
I
they're kind of like, almost like paper. Huh?
Yeah, and I
Try
get,
that.
I get them at work free,
Try that
but I
too.
see them at Home Depot too, so.
Yeah, thanks.
If I'm going, I mean, I ain't no turner, I just started playing with that thing I got from the gym, but I found, I'll
One of
put
the
that
things-
on and put rubber bands on my arms so the sleeves stay,
One of the things that I do
and wear a
is
mask.
I've got a small fan that's sitting up on this end, and I turn it on to try to blow as much of that away from my face and my nose as I can.
Yeah.
Because I can't wear, if I put a face mask on, it fogs my glasses up. I can't see what I'm doing.
I do this when I'm sanding.
Yeah.
I'm sanding with one hand, and I've got a vacuum cleaner
Okay.
right there.
Well, if you notice inside, I got a little wall-mounted fan,
Yep.
and then you can adjust, and it helps with the sanding dust. It's not a cure-all, but it probably takes 50, 60, 70% of the dust out.
When you start turning, there's, lots of woods out there. When you get into the exotics, you need to be really, really careful because some of the exotics are extremely toxic. Rosewood rosewood is actually from the poison ivy family. I turned some rosewood one day, making something, I don't remember what it was. And of course, in the summertime, I don't have an air conditioner. So you get this fine dust and it gets all over you. Take my air hose and blow it off, and I'm out in the yard practicing archery. And I look down and my arms are turning red and they're starting to itch. And it dawned on me, you just turned rosewood. In the house, scrub brush, scrub as hard as you can and get that junk off. I know a guy that had a reaction to it. Well, a friend of mine told me about it. His friend, he had bought Brazilian rosewood, was building stuff out of it. He had a reaction, wound up in the hospital, almost died. He told his buddy, he said, go get that stuff out of my shop. I want it gone when I come home. I won't see it again. So, Cocobolo, any of the rosewoods, a lot of those things like that, you don't know what allergies you have until it's too late sometimes.
Purple
Be
Heart.
really careful.
Purple Heart is in that category. I read some stuff on it.
What?
Purple Heart.
Purple Heart.
Purple Heart turns beautiful, but it turns, it's harder than a brick. It turns like plastic almost. You don't get shavings, you get a little bit of fine stuff off of it.
Only like dust.
That little bit I did for my wife for that board in that game, I don't want to fool with it no more. It was pretty.
Lee, great job, bro.
Yeah, very good.
Get ready to go.